Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking about episode 11 of season 2 of Young Justice called Cornered. Well, it's really nice to be back with you guys after a while. I know there was an episode last week, but if you're a regular on my channel, you know that I was able to review last week's episode when it was leaked via iTunes back in October. So if you didn't catch my review of Before the Dawn, you can just go and click on the Young Justice playlist for my channel and check it out there. So now I'm back on board along with everybody else, and I have to say that after the real kick in the teeth that we got last episode, this is not as really as strong. Then again, keeping the momentum that was after what happened, the big climax of last episode, is understandably difficult. And slowing things down a little bit, I really have to say, is not a misstep on the show's part. You do have to do that. You can't keep everything a barreling train 100% of the time. You have to sometimes slow down and give the various storylines some time to cook, which is mostly what we have going on this episode. The main villain of this episode is, of course, Despero. He's, if you're familiar with the comics, a longtime foe of the Justice League. He's presented as being enormously powerful in terms of physical fighting abilities and a very, very powerful psychic. Now, I'm a Justice League fan, but I've actually only ever read a handful of stories with Despero in them, and in none of the ones that I read, he just didn't really strike me as being anything more than another big, strong alien who just happened to have some psychic powers. Now, people who are much more familiar with the Justice League comics can probably, rattle off a list of very good Despero stories. Okay, again, I'm not saying that Despero is a bad character. He's just one I personally am not terribly familiar with. Now, the version that we get here is slightly physically different than what we see in the comics. Here he's presented as having purple skin and a somewhat more fish-like appearance. In the comics, he's a little bit more basically humanoid and has pink skin. And honestly, I think that the Young Justice version it's a better take. He just well, let's face it, if you're trying to present somebody who's pink as a bad guy, not exactly the most threatening of colors. So that, and making him look a little bit more inhuman, to sort of, giving him those teeth, it really goes a long way to sell him as he's billed, the most powerful gladiator guy in the universe. Now, the idea of Despero not speaking though, and his whole thing being, well, he doesn't speak, and it's just Elrond who explains what's going on, and constantly is rambling on about cheating and all this other stuff. Despero in the comics can talk, and I think going in this direction, it's an interesting choice stylistically, but if you want a villain who never speaks, you really have to play it pretty carefully. Look at, say, Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th movies. Okay, now you can think whatever you want about how those movies are, but generally Jason is presented as being an extremely menacing character and somebody who you would have legitimate reason to be afraid of. By putting Elrond in there, it does, of course. He's necessary so that the Young Justice team understands what's going on, and so that we, of course, the viewers do as well. But by having him there, it just takes away from that sort of silent menace that someone like Jason Voorhees has. Now, with a Friday the 13th movie, well, you don't really need to understand a whole lot going on. There's a undead, for lack of a better term, super zombie who goes around killing teenagers for having sex. I mean, that's basically it. Here, we need to understand who Despero is, why he's doing this, and yada yada yada. Now, Elrond is, of course, also from the comics, the Justice League comics. He's not somebody I'm super familiar with, but I do believe that his origin in his presented with his connection to Despero is accurate. I am not 100% on that. I just didn't feel like looking it up before I made this video, so don't quote me on that. But it's interesting that he was eventually, I guess, reprogrammed or something, and was essentially a member of the Justice League, or at the very least the personal sort of sidekick to, I believe it was Maxwell Lord. Anyway, Elrond's a character who has his who also has his history as a Justice League character. And one thing I kept thinking of while I was watching this and listening to him rant about sportsmanship, it's funny that a lot of Elrond's idea of sportsmanship is basically demanding that the other characters face Despero in a fashion that really plays to his strengths. One of the rules of warfare that even somebody who's never been in the military or anything like that would understand is, do not fight a battle on your enemy's terms, or on terms that are favorable to your enemy if you can at all help it. Now you can sort of say that Despero is an alien, and sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. That Despero is an alien. He probably has a different code of morality than Earth humans, and okay, that's fine. But you know what? I think I've made my point. We don't want to get into the whole Star Trek alien interaction protocols, Prime Directive, whatever. At the end of the day, Despero's a villain, and the good guys kick his butt. That's what matters. Now, looking at what was going on there with the story at the Lake Hall, there are an extraordinary number of balls in the air, so I'm going to try and cover as many of them as I can. This does continue the storyline of what's going on with Mal and Bumblebee. And, man, Bumblebee is kind of a lousy girlfriend. I mean, seriously, girl, stop and take your boyfriend's emotions into account just once, huh? I mean, granted, Mal sort of did drop the whole "so can I move in with you" thing on her out of the blue, but still, take a moment to consider what's been going on here. I mean, the guy almost died and just had his home blown up. And of course, Mal gets some major points for his little deception. When I was seeing the previews for this episode, I was like, what in the world is he doing dressed up in the Guardian outfit? Now, granted, Mal's counterparts in the comics have worn costumes and gone by the names of, and I kid you not, Hornblower and Herald. So, in terms of code names, Guardian is a major step up for Mal. But let's see. Our other main subplot going on there is the continued friction between Miss Martian and Superboy. Now we see the consequences of what Miss Martian did last time around really coming around to bite her in the butt, even more than what happened last time around. It's really just compounding everything. Now, if she had not learned the truth about what was going on with Aqualad, Miss Martian would have used her psychic powers, turned them on Despero, and in all likelihood, remember, even the Martian Manhunter has said she is probably a more powerful telepath than he is. And given that Miss Martian is quite skilled with the old mind rape, she'd have probably just floored Despero and had him on the floor drooling and soiling his pants. But now she's paralyzed, even though Despero's powers haven't touched her once. She can't do anything with her most powerful ability. And this is all just because of her misusing that ability. It's some wonderfully ironic, bitter irony. In trying to do the right thing, in trying to be a hero, she went so far down the wrong path that when she needed that power, when she could have done that very dark and very questionable thing that she can do, and have it be probably a legitimate response, probably the only thing that really could have saved the day, if it not weren't for our hero's coming up with yet another backup plan. Well, anyway, my point is made. Let's not reiterate things too much. I do kind of have to call cheapness on taking Zatanna out so easily. It just, basically, Elrond says magic is cheating. Now, to be completely fair, though, if that's the case, then if Zatanna had been able to bring her powers into the fight, this probably would have been an extraordinarily short fight. But on the other hand, if magic is cheating, then it's the idea that Despero is this extraordinarily powerful gladiator. As long as you don't throw him up against somebody who can use magic, he's the most powerful gladiator in 92 galaxy systems, 92 systems. It hurts Despero's credibility there. Let's put it that way. Now, let me see here. Yes, our little PTSD counseling session subplot. Not a whole lot to say for the most part. I do like that we are continuing to see the bonding between Blue Beetle and Impulse. I think it's fairly safe to say that's going to become very important later on, especially given the flashback we saw of Impulse in the future with evil Blue Beetle or Black Beetle or whoever the heck that was. But it does. I do like that Jaime initially was thinking about, I'm going to keep quiet about this. This is what we should do. But ultimately, because Jaime is an extraordinarily moral person and a real good person, he comes clean with the League. Of course, this is just my instinct. This is ultimately going to be turn out to be what really sets us down the dark road. And and talking with some other fans from previous in the comments to other reviews I've done this season, the idea that the Beetle ends up being attached to somebody else, which, remember, was the goal that the Reach were going for, seems even more likely now. Now, who the replacement could be, your guess is as good as mine at this point. I have one or two ideas, but I don't think it's anything really worth floating at this point. But I do have to say, this is actually really playing up some of the more intriguing aspects of time travel stories. It's, how do I prevent this bad thing? And how do I know what I'm trying to do to prevent this bad thing isn't what causes this bad thing to happen in the first place? It's one of those brain-bending but extraordinarily interesting, I don't know if I want to say possible plots. Let's go with that term in time travel stories. And one that is, of course, reasonably difficult to pull off, but one I really would like to see done more often. But, you take what you can get, right? Now, let's see here. Some little nods to the comics that I'd like to point out. Of course, if you're familiar with the comics, you know that Bloodhaven is the city where Nightwing has operated since the 90s. And if you want some good comics, go check out the old Scott McDaniel, Chuck Dixon, Nightwing comics. Now, they've a lot of other very talented folks have worked on Nightwing over the years, but that run is still one of my all-time favorite Batman family storylines, or Batman family comics, along with actually the 90s Robin series that Chuck Dixon did, particularly when he was working with Tom Grummett. That was just some wonderful stuff. Then there was a lot of really good stuff going on in the Batman comics in the 90s. A lot of bad stuff too, but we'd like to emphasize the positive around here. Of course, I also got a kick out of Virgil actually using the term static shock. Of course, that was the name of the 90s. I'm sorry, 90s. I'm sorry. I'm on a real kind of a 90s state of mind right now. I think it might be this lovely flannel shirt that I happened to purchase yesterday. But anyway, of Static Shock, of course, being the Static TV series from a few years back, very well received, very popular with the fans, and of course, one of the main things for that caused Static to be so recently elevated in the pantheon of DC characters. Static, again, another product of the 90s, created by the late and sorely missed Dwayne McDuffie. It's really great to see this character really coming into his own, particularly nowadays. But okay, let's go on. A little cameo by Black Lightning this episode, and even Wade Elling, who he was the army guy who was firing on the Hall of Justice. You had to look very carefully. His name tag was only visible very briefly. You of course remember Wade as the general on Justice League back some years ago. Had a very nice storyline with him taking on the League. He ended up being put in the body of the Shaggy Man in the comics, who then they shaved the Shaggy Man and he just became known as the General. Continues to be Justice League antagonist. So, some real treats there for the comic book fans out there. And let's move on. Now, talking about the Reach, this is the main plotline that I haven't talked about yet. It is very interesting to see them really using politics, Earth's own politics, against the Justice League. And the thing is, though, the way the Reach are really presenting themselves, they're being just reasonable enough that you can kind of agree with them. I mean, it is true. The League hid the fact that they were galactically wanted criminals. They've hid the existence of the Watchtower. There's there's a lot of stuff that, of course, the League is not telling people, and of course, the League, for the most part, hide their secret identities. So it's not unreasonable that some people would feel very distrustful of them, or at least, say like, hey, wait a second. You guys need to let us know what's going on, or you're making these extraordinary claims about these people who we have no reason to think are up to anything bad. Do you have any proof of what you're saying? And I like this. This shows that the Reach are very, very smart. They are capable of using Earth's politics and culture against the League, and politics aren't something that the Justice League can go out and punch in the face. They have to operate within certain rules, otherwise they lose all trust of the people that they're trying to help. So the Reach are being very smart and using the League's own rules and strengths against them. And again, that's just smart. That's just smart villainy, smart writing, really great stuff. I really wish that more shows would, and basically more shows and basically this is something I think really should be the norm in storytelling. Okay, I'm just pointlessly repeating myself, which is of course why you're here, right? Okay, no, you're not here for that. So let's come to the last thing that I wanted to talk about this time around, and that was at the very end where Superboy goes to talk with Miss Martian at her uncle's apartment. Now, did you notice that Superboy just shows up there in his Superboy clothes? I mean, how dumb is this? This is the Martian Manhunter's secret identity place, and Superboy's just like strolling up in there off the street in his full Superboy outfit. Now, granted, his Superboy outfit is a black T-shirt, but he's not exactly an unknown character. Wait, is his existence publicly known? Okay, well, whatever. Sorry, folks. It's again, we're coming back to the show after since before Halloween, so actually no. Now that I think about it, I don't think Superboy's existence is super well publicly known. All right, whatever. So yeah, I'm still settling back into the Young Justice universe, so do forgive me on that one. But, either way, Superboy's being kind of dumb here. And it's made worse by the fact that he could do a lot to protect the Martian Manhunter's secret identity and privacy if he just, put on a jacket or another shirt. I mean, granted, if he'd thrown on this bad boy, he might have run the risk of being mistaken for a grunge rock aficionado, which among modern 16-year-olds, as I understand it at least, is something that costs you some pretty serious cool points. But still, this is just dumb on Superboy's part. And it's sad because Superboy has been shown to be a pretty intelligent guy. But, that's, I guess, at the end of the day, kind of a minor thing. And I definitely want to see what's going to happen with them, next episode. Now, keep in mind, McGann did just refuse to take a call from Lagoon Boy, her boyfriend, who is recovering from what is undoubtedly an extraordinarily horrible and traumatic experience. I guess Bumblebee's not the only lousy girlfriend around here, huh? And they're also going to be alone in an apartment together, unsupervised, when they're both in emotionally crazy places. Yeah, I can't see that going anywhere at all, anywhere but good places. Can you? But yeah. All right, folks. Well, know this might have been a little bit more disjointed than usual, but in any case, Young Justice is back. It looks like this is going to continue to be another really good season, so I'm definitely looking forward to next week's episode. As always, folks, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.